Radio Free Skaro.
Hello everyone, welcome to Radio Free Skaro, episode number 770. I am Stephen in Edmonton.
Warren in Vancouver.
And Chris in Edmonton.
Happy Doctor Who Day weekend.
Yeah.
Because Doctor Who Day is on Monday. Or if you're morbid, happy anniversary of JFK's assassination.
Which paved the way for Doctor Who.
It did, yeah, absolutely. It's known for the delaying of Doctor Who by about 5 minutes, and indeed affecting the minds of the British populace enough to not want to give their all attention-wise to this new science fiction series, unless you're Sandhya Narayan Swami. They repeated the first ever repeat happened like the week after. Yeah, I mentioned Sandhya, who was on our commentary for Praxeus. I forgot to mention last week, so I'll mention it now. On our Facebook page on that post, it was amazing because her brothers started chiming in, who of course she grew up with in the UK, and they were talking back and forth about, oh, do you remember what was like, we watched that, and then you remember that shop Mum used to take us into all the time? Yeah, that's the one that the Autons came out of in Spearhead from Space. So like they're talking all about like walking down that road and stuff. Oh yeah, we went to that shop. So. Yeah, it was, but like at the time, like they weren't there during the day of, but
wasn't at the time, but I did a.
You weren't there in 1969.
No, I wasn't even alive. Yeah. But no, I did a pub crawl once upon a time in Ealing, which involved that.
Oh, really? No. I did another thing. I also want to mention this. So Sandy also emails me saying, it's great. Thank you again for the podcast. I sent a link to my friend who was a colleague who grew up in Scotland but now lives in Finland. And said colleague says, oh, yes, by the way, in Glasgow in the 1970s, I hung out a lot with Peter Capaldi, who was in a rock band at the time. So like all the...
That's burying the lead, man.
Yeah, I know. I know, right? Yeah. So that was a fun thing. Speaking of commentaries, oh boy, we have a jam pack because it's Doctor Who Day. In the past, we've sometimes let's put out a bumper episode of a Doctor Who Day, and so that's what we've done this year as well. In addition to our regular Series 12 commentary, which is the Haunting of Villa Diodati, an awesome episode with Katelyn and Brenna from the Queer Archive. Toby Hadoke also drops by to talk about his new Doctor Who podcast initiative dropping on November 23rd. Toby Hadoke's Time Travels. It's a fun chat, so stay tuned for that as well. Lots of stuff here on Doctor Who Day Eve for us, but it's actually Doctor Who Eve for us because we're recording this on a Saturday.
And the fact we're recording this on a Saturday, there's a lot of stuff happening today, tomorrow, that we're going to have to talk about as though it were past tense, but it hasn't actually happened yet. I know.
It's, 2020 being what it is.
Terrible, I believe is what you're looking for.
Yeah, for the first time in quite some time, I think I did this about a week or two ago, I realized, time is kind of meaningless right now because we're in a global pandemic. And I actually set a calendar event with a reminder to watch An Unearthly Child on November 23rd at 10, 16, and 20 seconds this time around. Because usually I could just sort of my internal clock was, gotta watch that. That's right. Don't forget that. Not that I would ever forget it. This year, I probably would forget it. So set an alarm. I set an alarm for myself. This is what it's come to. I've set an alarm to watch the very first episode of Doctor Who on the exact moment of its
anniversary. You are, wait for it, a bad fan.
I am terrible. I've realized that the first time I did this was 1991. I missed 1 year. I missed 1
30
year.
years, literally 30 years.
In the TARDIS.
29 years. And I missed 1 year because I was playing a hockey game that morning and there was no possible way that I was, but believe me, I have in the years since I have watched it on a plane. I've watched it in a car driving somewhere. I wasn't driving.
I can vouch for this because on November 23rd, 7 years ago, when we were waiting in in the theater to watch The Day of the Doctor. We were there at 10 whatever in the morning.
Yep.
And you pulled out your phone and started watching it then.
Yeah.
So.
I just had this vision of you playing hockey with one of those crappy old 90s LCD screens strapped to the front of it, watching it as you play hockey.
Sony Watchman?
Yeah, well, a little better, but not much.
Yeah, because that was 2002 was that the 1 year that I missed, that I had to miss it. And so pre-smartphone days. So yeah, it's not like I could bring a portable DVD player in there or something like that. So yeah. But other than that 1 year, I've watched it literally every single year since 1991, which is astounding.
That's sad. That's pretty sad.
It's sad. you might call it sad. Yep.
I mean, I call it. I don't know, sad but noble.
No, but I am sure I'm not the only person to do this. I'm sure there are many people that watch it do what I do at the exact time and then press play.
If you find them, maybe you need a support group.
I tell you, we are the
Unearthly
silent
Child
majority.
Yes.
We are the silent majority. There's probably tweet at Radio Free Skaro on Twitter if you are also watching An Unearthly
I bet you're
Child.
not the silent majority.
No, and I say 10:16 Word Mountain Time. Obviously, it's like 5:16 to 20 seconds for anyone else who's in the UK or something like that. So this is why it's so early. But yeah, I'll be doing that again as I celebrate the 57th anniversary of the first episode of Doctor Who. 57
as we record this 7 years ago today was the first broadcast of An Adventure in Space and Time as well.
What? Oh, that's right. It's on the the Thursday night. Yeah. Golly, that was a whirlwind. Now that I think about it, because I remember that wrecked me, that whole thing, and I was a mess for the rest of the weekend. And I was just like showing up for a day. I remember we've spoken this in the podcast before, but I just remember like I just went home immediately after Day of the Doctor. I think I'm done.
You did?
I'm out. I am emotionally empty after this whole thing. The year, I mean, for a good reason, not like 2020 where I'm emotionally empty because it's 2020.
And that's like, every day.
Yeah. Yeah, I just remember just being like completely spent. So yeah, happy and fun times back in the days when we could celebrate things. I've also been thinking that like the UK, like that was a good time for the UK. They went from like 2012 Olympics, it was like all amazing and everyone just like, oh, Britain's great and everything. Oh no, Doctor Who gets to celebrate its 50th anniversary, and it's like, this thing that we made is like a worldwide event, and there was just a wonderful feeling of togetherness in the UK, and
then
it's different now. Yeah. Anyway, happy Doctor Who Day. Yep. Happy birthday, William Russell. This
96.
Past week. 96 years old for Ian
He
Chester.
need never die.
Yes. So yeah, There's as Chris alluded to, there are many things that have happened, but will happen for us. What will happen on the 23rd is there's going to be a live tweet along. BBC arranged an official BBC tweet along of the Timeless Children. On November 23rd with, I don't know if have they announced like who's going to be like involved in that at all. It just says like here's a tweet along.
Not that I've seen.
At press time, that has not been confirmed if anyone's going to join in on this, or if they're just going to say like, hey, just hashtag Doctor Who Day. So maybe Jodie Whittaker will be there. Maybe Mandip Gill. Maybe people will be there. Maybe Sacha Dhawan will be a part of that because he was in that episode, of course. So who knows? You might know more than we do at this point right now. But Emily Cook has, as we said, has started doing more tweet-alongs because hey, it's another Doctor Who lockdown, and so the tweet-along for the pilot has not happened for us, but has happened for you. That happened. Following up on the last week thing that has happened for you but didn't happen for us was the Children in Need unit thing that she and John Coleshaw and Katie Manning did. It's a little video. It's fun. It's John Coleshaw doing the voices for John Pertwee and the Brigadier.
And Terrence Dix.
And Terrence Dix too.
Is there anything this Coleshaw fella can't do?
Apparently he cannot fly a space shuttle.
Well, come on.
Yeah. Found that out recently.
As far as video stuff goes, one thing I meant to and forgot to put in the news was episode 2 of the Daleks animated show thing, which I
If you have to watch episode 1, I'm a bad fan.
Oh, yeah.
Episode 2 is out now.
I didn't watch episode 2 yet, but I should, because it's right there. I like the first one. It was good, with an interesting twist on it. So, yeah.
A little bit,
so
yeah. Yeah, it's... it was okay. It's nothing I'm obviously rushing out to see the moment it drops, but I think I might keep watching.
Yeah.
For the 5 or 6 episodes that it is, it's not that hard.
Yeah, if you could be bothered to turn up, I'm sure you.
I might keep watching. Chris Bridges.
Yeah, it's What
I haven't watched it all.
Praise.
So yeah.
Yeah. What? Oh, now this is something that is happening after this episode drops, but only just the Latency Radiophonic Workshop concert online at 8 p.m. British time, which is on YouTube. It's on YouTube. Everyone will watch it. Everyone could watch this thing. Now, this concert, including the use of internet delay as a way of performing electronic music. How intriguing! Basically, this is the culmination. Speaking of the 50th anniversary of the show, this is the culmination of the nonsense and mess that was the One Direction live hit on the Doctor Who after party, but actually using that on purpose. It's kind of like how they discovered distortion. Thinking, oh no, you've plugged that into an amplifier and it distorted the sound of your guitar. Thinking, whoa, that actually sounds pretty cool. And the history of music was born. But now it's like, hey, remember that awful internet delay stuff we did with One Direction 7 years ago? Let's make that into a thing. And here they are. They're doing it. I'm intrigued to see what this is going to be.
By the way,
like.
not One Direction's fault. So,
No, it is actually. It was their fault. They insisted on...
Yeah.
They never did. No, they never did.
That's one aspect of the 50th we didn't initially talk about.
No,
all the
after
right
parties.
yeah, but the thing is, I think it's perfect, because what would Doctor Who be without some sort of a ridiculous flub?
I've said this in the past too. It's like everything went ludicrously perfect.
Which it almost did.
That whole weekend. Like everything, like the Day of the Doctor was amazing. Like the celebration of all of it leading up to it was amazing. Come on, it's Doctor Who. There has to be the giant fluffy rat in Talons of Wing Chang Yang.
Exactly.
Was that-
and also
A piece of rug running across the carpet.
there has to be the flaw in the Persian rug, and think, oh God, thank God for the after show. There we go. All the nonsense, all the technical screw ups, the booms in shot, all the stuff over the last 50 years of Doctor Who that have gone wrong were just sort of channeled into that after party. It's like,
That was
yes,
the green bubble wrap.
yeah.
The green bubble wrap of the 50th anniversary.
That was Zoe Ball who did that, right?
No, it wasn't. We've
No.
we've had this discussion about it wasn't.
Anyway, the person whoever presented the program.
Yeah.
Just speaking of flub ups, I just remember. I think it was Janet Fielding. They
Yeah.
referred to as Tegan. Like they called somebody by their character name, not their actual name.
Yeah. They called a couple people as I recall. I've got that buried somewhere.
I wouldn't make
really
Janet
should
Fielding
watch
mad,
that.
just an FYI.
Yeah.
I
don't remember who the two hosts were. Maybe it was Zoe Ball as one of them, but there were two hosts definitely. I remember the male host tried to sit down and budge his way in between.
it is. I just looked it up on YouTube. It's Zoe Ball.
It is Zoe Ball. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
She did the Capaldi thing.
she did the Capaldi thing, so all is forgiven. Yeah. Happy days, happy times and places. Also, let's move on. Hey, would you want to learn to code with the 13th
No,
Doctor?
but-
Well, now you can with a High Five Inventor coding kit. Here's the thing about coding. I don't know what it is, but
That was more than I thought was going to happen.
Yeah.
So you just went straight for the ignorant.
I know, like like teaching kids to code. I'm thinking maybe I should learn how to do that just for fun. Like if kids are learning it, maybe I should like find out what's going on about it. And
That's a cool idea. I'm just not very good at it.
I just like how it's an Internet of Things coding tutorial, basically.
so what does that mean, Chris?
So Internet of Things is things connected to like just not random, but mundane things connected to the internet.
Your fridge
like
asking for a terms of
Wi-Fi
service,
enabled
that's what it
fridge,
is.
yeah.
Right.
Or
Google
Wi-Fi enabled
robots,
toaster
those
or
sort of
whatever.
things. Yeah. Okay. And so you can program stuff. You can program to do things with this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty neat.
This reminds me of, just to be very old, the Heath kit that you could buy for $5,000, a little robot that you would program to go in one direction and then the other direction.
Oh, really? Well, that's pretty handy. Speaking
That's
of,
well
It was
worth
not
$5,000.
handy at all. But it was very much an 80s device.
Wow.
It's not like was it Robot Operating Buddy for the NES? Rob?
No, those things are rare and expensive.
Oh.
And even though they're complete garbage and didn't do anything.
Oh, well, hopefully the BBC Hi-Fi inventor will do something. It's available through order on the BBC Shop, Amazon, all sorts of places starting November 23rd. Everything happens November 23rd. And you can too. There's a little thing. It's like narrated by Jodie Whittaker and everything. Like it's a canon. I'm wondering this Hi-Fi.
Of course, it's canon. Come on,
coding kit. I'm kind of intrigued by it. I will admit I'm partial. Like if kids can do it, I mean, how hard can it be? It's probably very hard.
One of the screenshots or one of the lifestyle photos that it shows appears to be an animation of Jodie Whittaker's doctor dancing with some aliens.
That's pretty cool. It's fun to dance with aliens, I guess. I don't know. $75 though, anyway, on the BBC US shop. If you want to purchase it here in North America, I have no idea if it's available in Canada, so I might not have the luxury of learning how to code with the help of the 13th Doctor.
If only there were other resources out there you could use to learn.
There's only Doctor Who code. There's only Doctor Who coding stuff. It's all there is. It's that or nothing.
I like how you make monomania into a virtue.
Sure. Monomania, that's when everyone gets mononucleosis, right? Is that what it is?
No, it's you being obsessed with things.
No.
You specifically.
Like me being obsessed with watching An Unearthly Child, the exact time of its...
Exactly, taking it back.
November 23rd. Hey, Chicago TARDIS is happening. Oh, I forgot. I missed the thing. Let's do this. Edge of Time. Edge of Time gets a Time of Victorious update because you can now play with the 10th Doctor TARDIS. You can have the 10th Doctor in VR mode. Yeah. Now, if you own the game. And a headset. And software to connect that headset to whatever system you have. There's always an extra element in there, which is why I don't own one.
I was going to say, heaven forbid they call it the 9th Doctor console room.
I know. They've really taken it over. The 10th and 13th just are like a pair. Like they're a matched pair. So much so that I almost ship them. Because they're everywhere with Time of Victorious and with the comics. It's the 10th and 13th. Like they glossed over the Stephen Moffat era, completely erased from history.
Yeah.
Erased.
And of course,
whenever I see TLV as a shortcut for Time of Victorious, I think of the Las Vegas. I couldn't tell you why. Edge of Time gets a the Las Vegas update. Whether it's gambling, showgirls, what's going on here?
Yeah, it might be. Yeah, it might be.
I stuck it later in the news list, but Doctor Who Comics Day is today as well. Speaking of the
today
comics.
Being yesterday for you. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. What happened? They had they had a bunch of comic stuff. Obviously, they're not happening in stores because no one really should be going into stores. I'm sorry, no one should be going home for Thanksgiving.
I think
don't go for Thanksgiving, folks. Do not do it. It is a bad idea.
I didn't read to find out if they had any like events or anything, but I saw something somewhere along the way about Forbidden Planet, kind of pimping Doctor Who Comics Day. So, I mean, if anyone's going to have an in-store kind of celebration, they're the people to do it.
I suppose. Well, those in the UK in lockdown again. Like, is that really a thing? That
yeah, I don't know what the rules are.
Yeah. Well, the rules are stay home if you can, so that those who can't stay home aren't endangered by people just sort of going, you know what, I'm bored. Let's go out somewhere. Don't do that.
There's some free digital comics and this and that are part of it, and then the link in the show notes has a neat little like cutout TARDIS you can
make
fold
your own TARDIS. I know. I mean, if you print it on I feel like it would be kind of flimsy if you just printed it on like your normal 8x10 paper. You know, like I want that printed out on proper card. I actually want to print that out. Here's the idea. What if you printed it out on like giant card and you just made a life-size paper TARDIS, and then you wouldn't have to worry about all the wooden stuff, and you can have it in your home. Could you do that?
Sure. Done.
Okay. I would like to do that. I would like to do that. I mentioned it earlier. Chicago TARDIS is happening this week. They've announced some guests with Paul McGann, Sophie Aldred, Fraser Hines, Terry Malloy, Nick Briggs, and Jason Hank Ellery. It's all virtual, of course. It's happening this weekend. Details at chicagotardis.com because it's all virtual, with them sort of having a much more normal convention next November. When I'm becoming much more confident that things will be better next November.
Well, we'll see what happens in reality, but there's been some potentially good news on the medical science front.
Yeah.
In the past little while, so
Science has saved us once again.
What?
maybe.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be bleach and hydrocloxywacoxazine or whatever the hell it's called.
Amazingly, no. It's actual science, Warren. Scientists once again in the background just churning away, saving the earth again.
But I thought you were just supposed to make a lot of noise and yell about things.
No, apparently not.
Well,
Apparently
with
it's
the red hat on. Ooh, getting political.
No, apparently it's the scientists who are doing it. So thank you, scientists, for once again saving us from ourselves, even though we don't deserve it right now. Like right now, it kind of feels like, like we, as cases of COVID just skyrocket, it reminds me of my youth when I got a student loan for my first year in college. And by November, that student loan was gone because I had a whole pile of money. I'm thinking, let's go spend it. I'll be fine eventually. This is, Mom, I need money. My student loan is gone because I spent it on
Which I have to pay back now.
Yeah, so then that's what it feels like. Is okay, you wasted your student loan. Here comes the scientist, aka Mom, to help get you through the next few months of college, and that's kind of what it feels.
Oedipal and tortured.
I know. Well, that's what it feels like. Like, hey, wow, cases are skyrocketing, but whatever. We got a vaccine now, so we don't have to be careful. No, you have to be careful. It's going to take a long time to dole out these vaccines when they eventually finally come in, and you behaving irresponsibly is not the way to do it.
There's other tangents I could go off, but I'm not gonna, because that's not related to Doctor Who. So
I suppose not. No. Anyway, Chicago Tard is virtual because we can't be trusted to contain a virus on our own. We have to wait for vaccines happening. ChicagoTardis.com. All the details. Also, the Big Finish Paul Sprague Memorial Short Trips winner was announced. It's a story called Free Speech by Eugenie Pusenjak, I believe is how you pronounce her name, with a new short story read by Jacob Dudman as the 10th Doctor. So yeah, well done, Eugenie. I like that initiative. I like the Paul Sprague thing where they try and find, they cast the net and say, hey, write a story for Big Finish. Someone who's never really written for Big Finish or anywhere at all before, and it's a neat way of finding new talent in the pool of writers out there. So, do
you still contribute, Warren? Do you try to put?
I tried last year and got nowhere, so I'll try again next year and get nowhere.
Oh, well, as long as you try.
Well, it's one person out of how many hundreds of entries, so
that's true. Yeah,
and then for whatever it's worth, this winning entry, Free Speech, does get released for free.
Yeah, they do that every year, I believe.
Oh, cool. I wasn't sure if it's free or not. Well, that's kind of neat. Hence it's being free speech, because in the title it has to be free.
Of course. There's no coincidence whatsoever.
Not at all. No, I know. Also free on iTunes right now, Free Man in Paris by Joni Mitchell, because it says free right there in the title. You can take it. Freedom, George Michael. Never got a cent off it because it says free.
I don't think that's true at all.
No, you got me, Warren. You got me. Not true. Hey, there's a Pointless Celebrities special coming up. Speaking of Doctor Who Day, it has already come up. It might be airing right now as we're recording this. Very close, actually, on BBC One. A special Pointless Celebrities edition with many science fiction celebrities, including Matthew Waterhouse, Louise Jameson, David Graham, Sophia Miles, Jimmy V, and some other people who were not in Doctor Who.
Stephanie Beacham
don't count.
Was she in Doctor Who?
No, she wasn't in Doctor Who, but she was in Star Trek and Sequest. Was it Sequest she was on?
Sequest, good lord. That's really reaching, man.
That is featuring Roy Scheider, who is in nothing else other than Sequest.
No, absolutely
DSV.
not. He certainly wasn't in all that.
Never appeared in a single other thing other than Sequest.
Not
DSV.
Naked Lunch or 2010, the year we made contact. No, none of those things.
Not at all. 2010, nice. Try to maybe Jaws as well. Got an Oscar nod.
2010 is actually a great movie.
French Connection.
I like 2010.
He's also got an Oscar nomination for Bob Fosse and all that jazz. Anyway, Roy Scheider. So anyway, Pointless Celebrities already aired. Not for us, though, so we never saw it. So hopefully it was fun. Pointless. That's fun seeing Jimmy V there, because, of course, he's been many a monster in Doctor Who over the years. So.
Jimmy V. Yeah. Indecipherable.
Yeah, when he was a Gallifrey one the other year. Number one, I still love the picture somebody made me take with him.
Because he's much shorter than you are.
But it was kind of cool to learn, like, he's an avid, like, race car driver.
That's awesome.
Which is, like, get the thrill of speed and all that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like Rowan Atkinson. And lastly, before we head off to our special features this episode, the BBC Motion Graphics Archive has been made available online. So this is a showcase of the history and development of motion graphics across the BBC and includes examples of opening titles, promotion trailers, Sting's idents, and all that sort of stuff. Of course, Doctor Who is mentioned and featured in this, being a very notable example of BBC motion graphics over the years. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of neat archive stuff on there that you could check out on the website. The link's in the show notes at radiofreeskaro.com. I love archive television stuff like this, and this is right up my alley. So yeah,
Stephen,
check it out. Yes,
do you, and the audience, you follow the Twitter account Archive TV Musings? Because you should.
I have seen many people retweet it. Various stuff from them, but what element are you trying to capture my attention with here?
I just think it's great because it has a lot of that. It has tons of archive. If you like archive TV stuff, they just flood the Twitters with it every day. So it's just nice to see weird 1970s stuff instead of the usual Twitter anger. Oh, I know. No,
I see it a lot. And the BBC Archive Twitter feed also has a lot of interesting. They had something today, Saturday, that I think featured like behind the scenes of a TV production in 1956, and I saved it to watch for later. I haven't watched it yet, but yeah, bring on the archive TV stuff. When things were not better, nostalgists, they were just different. Okay, do not weep for the end of TV was much better in 1956. There are many things that were not as good in 1956 that you perhaps think they were, but it's very fascinating to watch how the television industry evolved and stuff. So yeah, I eat stuff like that up with a silver spoon. Anyway, that's it. That's it for the news. After the break, hey, this is fun. So we got our Series 12 commentary for the Haunting of Villa Diodati with Katelyn and Brenna from the Queer Archive podcast. But first, our good old friend Toby Hadoke to talk about his new podcast initiative, Toby Hadoke's Time Travels. My guest today has a long history with Doctor Who, from comedy shows to DVD commentaries to the very popular Who's Round podcast series, and his involvement continues with a new podcast initiative under the collective title Toby Hadoke's Time Travels, which launches November 23rd. Welcome, Toby Hadoke.
Well, it's nice to be back.
Right, it's been a while, hasn't it?
You've had the place redecorated, but I can't see because I'm locked. I'm locked in quarantine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, I kind of, because you were stretching your wings. You were doing the Quatermass stuff and writing for other BBC audio dramas, and I thought, I don't want to tie Toby Hadoke to Doctor Who because it felt like you were sort of trying to spread your wings a little bit. And then I get a newsletter that drops on me and says, here's Toby Hadoke starting 4 new Doctor Who podcasts at once.
Well, yes, I do sometimes think I'm a bit like Al Pacino in The Godfather Part 3, which is the best Godfather film because it's the only one with John Abineri in it. But, it's the kind of... It's not in that one, is it? But it's not in Godfather. But it's in the first one. Every time I try to get out, they reel me back in,
Yeah.
And yes, my Doctor Who... because it was never my ambition to be the Doctor Who guy. Not that I'm knocking all the opportunities that Doctor Who has given me, but it is a hobby that sort of got carried away with itself. And yet, when in quarantine, and I thought, well, should I dip my feet into sort of self-producing stuff? I thought there's a lot of comedians with podcasts. And I thought, well, what do I do that the other comedians don't do? And I thought, well, it's going to have to be Doctor Who then, isn't it? So then I thought, well, what can my Doctor Who podcast be? And I sort of narrowed it down to 3 different things. and so I did them, and one of them was too long, so I then did a sort of spin-off of that. So it became 4.
And this doesn't tie up like literally every single second of your day recording 4 different podcasts?
Well, I mean, fortunately, we're in a global pandemic and I'm not allowed to leave the house. So, well, it was interesting because my initial idea was to do these sort of whimsical essays, because then there would be joke writing in that. There's nothing. I don't think there's anything quite like that out there. That sort of just monologues that are slightly performance, but slightly narration and about Doctor Who. And I quite enjoyed doing those, but they took a bit more writing than I thought. So I thought, well, if I'm going to release something every week, I need to do something quicker. And I did so I thought, well, I'll try doing some commentaries, and I worked out a system of doing those when everyone was in bed, and I could nobble them off fairly quickly. And then I had this idea about doing these ones that are a bit more sort of archival, and they take forever, so that they're going to have to be spread out a little bit. And it was interesting because my initial idea that I thought was the really good idea, I then put the trailers out there. And it's a good job I came up with the other ones, because the least downloaded of the trailers was the one that was going to be the one commentary, and it sort of ties in with that idea that sort of people like what they know, and people know commentaries, they know how those work, so they've got an in, and actually don't make it don't overcomplicate it. So they seem to be the ones that people have gone for, and these archive ones, which are basically a blow by blow, episode by episode, who, what, when, and where of every single episode, not story. When I say episode, I mean the English meaning of episode. I mean 25 minutes, and it's where it was filmed, when it was filmed, what happened, biographies of everybody in it. But as I say, I was finding out too much, so it's called Too Much Information. So then I've got one called Far Too Much Information, which is for the stuff I couldn't fit into that, because I just went off on a tangent. I'm a very boring man, and I got very excited that I suddenly discovered I was a bit annoyed that I didn't know. They're so familiar, all the Coal Hill school children. I know what they all look like, and I've got the list of names, but I actually didn't know which one was which. And then I looked on the internet, and they'd got an idea, and which was wrong. So I thought, well, I better find out. So I then found out what happened to the majority of the Coal Hill school children, and have in fact been in touch with a couple of them. So so that was a couple of days, but
right.
But who else is doing that?
No one. You fill the niche. That's the great thing about podcasting. You find your target audience, and if you make the podcast that you would want to listen to, essentially. And
absolutely.
The passion from that will drive in listeners, because they will have that. Even if they don't appreciate the subject matter as much as you will, which is, I think, perhaps impossible, they will appreciate the enthusiasm behind it and be hooked in because of that.
Well, and it's interesting you say that, because one of the reasons for doing it was because I actually squandered a lot of time at the beginning of lockdown.
We all did.
I'd been saying for years, if only I had 6 months where I didn't have to do anything, I could start to eat properly, I could get some proper exercise, I could put those shelves up, I could tidy the house, I could get those scrapbooks done, all these lists of things, as well as work. I could finish that Quatermass book, I could do this, that, the other, and I actually did very, very little. But felt guilty for doing very little, so it wasn't even relaxing, because there was that voice going, "Oh, you're wasting this time. This is the opportunity of a lifetime." So it was a really weird period of sort of having scampi fries for breakfast and loafing about. And I spent a lot of time on social media, which I have a very uncomfortable relationship. And even with, and I have to say, I was very disappointed, but Emily Cook is the best of us. Emily Cook did all those brilliant tweets, and I kept being drawn to those people who were being mean to her about it because she hadn't done the story that they wanted her to do, or that she was some sort of BBC stooge who was somehow ruining their lives for not doing it exactly the way. And I thought, oh, come on, there is nothing that she is doing that isn't marvellous that you can't also do yourself. And she's doing it with such grace, and she's so, she deals with all of that really, really well, and she does it all so professionally. And I thought it was a lovely thing, and yet still I couldn't take my eyes off these one or two people going, and it gave me great disquiet, and it upset me that, even the sort of places that we go to for comfort in this time of when there were great political schisms and Trump versus Biden, masks versus non-masks, all of this sort of stuff, that even Doctor Who seemed to not be a place of solace. So when I came up with this idea of doing the commentaries, nobody, that wasn't an original idea. I thought I want to do something that will be positive. So I asked people to choose a story that they loved and to nominate the things that they loved about it, and I would try to watch the stories and mine those positive things, because I wanted to do something, if nothing else, to lift my spirits, because, I'm not averse to staring at the moon at midnight and wondering what it's all about. And I could feel that, and I could see that on Facebook and on Twitter. Friends of mine, normally quite cheerful people, just sort of getting a bit frayed around the edges. And I thought, I can't do much, but what I can do is I can talk about Doctor Who, and I can try and make people happy. So I'm going to do that. So I went in with a sort of very positive vibe, even if only to cheer myself up. So I couldn't sleep one night, and I was a bit sad. I was a bit depressed, and somebody had said, "Watch the Time Monster, and I'll tell you the things I like about it." I thought, "Oh, come on!" So I thought, do you know what? I'm going to try this. I'm going to see if I can stay up all night and have fun watching the Time Monster, and I blooming well did. And if that's not an achievement, I don't know what is. And so that's been really nice about it, is that I've been going into these stories. It's so much easier to mock the thing that you love. It's so much easier to get a laugh by criticising something's shortcomings. That's the nature of comedy. It's it's always about somebody slipping on a banana skin. It's not about somebody enjoying a nice banana. It's just easier to do jokes about misfortune, or to try and take the power out of things that upset us by mocking them. That's why humour always has a slightly sort of negative thing, because partially sometimes it's trying to take the negativity away. So to try and do it with a positive vibe, I thought was more interesting. It's definitely harder. It's definitely, watching Time Flight for 25 minutes, trying to go, yeah, this bit's really good. But when you do it, and also, if I can't find anything positive to say about it, I can say, but what you won't know about that actor is that he actually stood for Parliament for UKIP, and he once did a one-man show about Adolf Hitler, and I can throw it in with little bits of trivia as well, or throw in sort of childhood reminiscences and maybe fan experiences that we all go with. But it's still to try and sort of be positive and peppy and upbeat. So I just thought I'd try and do something different.
And also, I mean, I'm just thinking, you've obviously guested on quite a few podcasts over the years. You've done Who's Around, you've done commentaries, on-stage interviews, documentaries and stuff. Like, it's been your voice connected and your enthusiasm for it, but one thing that perhaps hasn't been there, because the avenue hasn't allowed you to be this way, is to, like, this is your opinion now of Doctor Who. You're not having to worry about talking over a commentator when you're, like, dropping in a little fact during a DVD commentary, or going on a monologue or something while you're wandering around with Matthew Waterhouse. That's completely off topic. The stage is now yours, and you can now share your enthusiasm and your knowledge about Doctor Who, perhaps for the first time uninterrupted, I think.
Well, and indeed, and if I was sort of putting my own views forward, I wouldn't be doing my job on those commentaries, because I did think, well, hang on, I've done commentaries on some of these stories, and I thought, well, no, because I'm doing a different job, and actually, what we say on those commentaries before we even start recording is, I say, look, I'm just here to help, but the less I say, the better. That's always my sort of opening line to the participants, to make them not feel that they have to look to me to be their lead, but I will be there as their sort of ballast to guide them, or to fill any silences, or to maybe steer things back on course. But generally, if people are chatting away 19 to the dozen, I'll keep my mouth shut. I'm not. I know sometimes when I do things like this and I go off on one, there might be evidence to the contrary, but I'm not particularly bothered about the sound of my own voice. But I I can fill I'm a stand-up comedian. When you're in a room and 200 people are looking at you, you keep talking until there's either a laughter break or the 20 minutes is up. But so yes, this has been because I've been able to go, I like that bit, or this bit's particularly good, or here's a bit I could talk about where actually the person, when I was doing the commentary on the DVD, the person themselves was talking about it, And I'm sure there'll also be stories about the recordings of those DVD recordings, and I'm sure one day there'll be a series of articles where I've interviewed about the various different DVD commentaries we did, and I have to try and remember what happened during them, So there's going to be constant revisitations. But yeah, it's been nice to have my own hat on, to be able to go, well, yeah, these are my experiences of the story, which a sort of objective moderator would not do and should not do.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned it earlier here, but just to break it down, too much information is the one that's the fact-filled episode by episode breakdown.
Yeah, and that's the one that on my Patreon has been really, really popular, which irritates the hell out of me because it's really hard. And each episode has gone to about, and well, I've done two much information. So the first episode of that is a forensic look at the pilot. And I talk about who did that, who did the music that Susan listens to, and actually the name given on the DVD is wrong. I've dug into what they're actually called and why there's a confusion about their name, and I've ascertained where I can what happened to the two guys who did that. So I've gone into that sort of detail, but also there's forensic looks at what you can actually see on the screen. But I try to do on too much information with what you can see on screen and what is credited, and then for far too much information where I couldn't fit stuff in, I've done stuff like I found out as much as I can about the guy who was the shadow that falls on the TARDIS at the end of the episode. He's called Leslie Bates, and he's actually in loads of Doctor Who's. But it's not just actor facts. There's where that prop came from, or what day that thing was filmed, and there was some confusion as to where the opening piece of footage from the Doctor Who title sequence came from, because it wasn't part of the title sequence tests, and different people talked about different productions. Some talked about Amal and the Night Visitors, which was a 1959 production, and some talked about Tobias and the Angel, because they're both similar sort of stories. So I had a little delve, and I think I've come up with a definitive answer, and indeed screen grabs. So there's new stuff as well as me collating verbally, all that stuff from the production files that perhaps we know because of the Origins documentary, or the fact files, or various bits and bobs. So there's been a bit of collation, but there's also been a lot of original research, and then I've pieced it together, and I've tried to make it interesting. I've sort of told it in a diary form, so there's a bit of drama there. So you go, on June the 10th it looked like the show was going to be pulled forever, and then Donald Baverstock did this, and so I've tried to use my skills as my experience as a vocal performer to keep it sort of lively. And in fact, some of the feedback I got from the people I sort of tested it on said, I didn't know how this was going to sustain, but the way that you've done it, and I got proper music. I commissioned music from Wayne Shepherd, who's an award-winning comedian and musician, who did a character called Gary Lestrange, and he's a collaborator with Matt Holness, who did Garth Marenghi, and he's very into the Doctor Who music. He knows the Doctor Who music, but he's an original musician himself, and he's done me a really good soundtrack. And so, yeah, it's very much, I think for the first time, a sort of oral history of Doctor Who. We have a lot of this information, in some of the documentaries, which couldn't go into perhaps as much detail as me. Certainly in some of the writings, and I've acknowledged my debt to the researchers from the past. But I think it's a sort of one-stop shop that you can have the history of Doctor Who in your ears when you're on the bus. And I think that's the first time that that's been done. But boy, I wish it didn't take quite as long to do.
Well, you committed.
But I've committed.
You committed because you said episode by episode. And how many episodes of Doctor Who can there be? There can't be that many, right?
I'm going to be here forever.
Absolutely forever.
But I'm pleased to say it's because I launched it on my Patreon page first, because there was also an opportunity for me to see if there was enough demand for me self-producing from home, because we cannot leave the house. My partner is high risk, so I'm having to work from home. And a few people said, "Come on, Toby, you gave gave away Who's Round for free. I think people will be well disposed to you putting stuff out there. So I'm going to put comedy on there as well, and all of the stuff, and loads of comedians I know are sort of are putting content out there. So I've got to swallow my pride a little bit and go, and my reticence about being sort of cap in hand, because it's sort of part and parcel of the output now of sort of creatives, is that we make our own stuff and we put it out there, and we give people the option to fund it. So I've sort of done that as well, but that doesn't mean that people who can't afford to pay won't. It's just that it won't receive stuff. It's just it might take a bit longer to get to them, or they But yeah, I'm still working, or they won't get a badge. I'm still working on how to do it.
Right. And then Indefinable Magic is the whimsical vocal essays inspired by some random aspect of the show. That's another one on this.
That was my original idea. So and the first one I wrote was a history of carrots in Doctor Who. So I've gone for every single, because I thought carrot juice is that, it has that bathos about it being Colin Baker's valedictory moment. And I thought, well, what do carrots mean to Doctor Who? So I researched and tried to work out every instance that featured a carrot or mentioned a carrot in Doctor Who. And then I go off on tangents like any good sort of stand-up comedian. I'll start talking about the carrots in The Ice Warriors, for example, which is the first instance of carrots appearing in Doctor Who. Unfortunately, it's in episode 2, so we can't even see them in the dark. And I'll go off on one about Storr and Penley, and the fact that Penley is played by Peter Sallis, who actually encountered quite a lot of carrots in his career in Last of the Summer Wine and The Curse of the Were-Rabbit. So it's sort of, but. So the idea is to be, so pure Doctor Who focused, blinkered Doctor Who fan types, of whom there are many and I love them all. I can understand might find that a little bit whimsical and off-piste for them, but I'm hoping perhaps that also some people who perhaps aren't quite that television, but like something that's a bit funny and a bit light and a bit silly, but again sort of good-natured, and it's got hopefully got some good jokes in it. But then, as I thought, well, what's Indefinable Magic is our way of saying Doctor Who can sort of be anything. So then I thought, well, why don't I do one about the war records of all the actors that played the Doctor? And so I've looked into that for one. And then I did one just about remembering shopping in newsagents and trying to find Doctor Who magazine when I was a kid, when I was on holiday. So that's something that I think will chime with a lot of people of a certain age and perhaps be instructive to people now for whom Doctor Who is just at their fingertips. So so 1 week it will be a nostalgic reminiscence. 1 week it'll be a history lesson. 1 week it'll be a stupid monologue about carrots. But hopefully, again, the sort of thing that when you're on the bus going to work and you fancy a bit of a Doctor Who hit and you've heard all the commentaries and all the episodes and this, that, and the other, you might go, oh, well, I'll whack that on.
Absolutely. And then the commentaries, which we've talked about, but the format of those, because somebody suggested you watch The Time Monster and see if you could find happy things in it. And so that's kind of like what the format is for you selecting stories to watch for commentaries.
I think I overcomplicated it first. I ran the idea by a comedian called Lawrence Clark, and he said, don't just do commentary, set yourself some sort of quest. And I made it really complicated and said, well, if they have to come up with 5 things, and then I have to choose 5 things, and we have to cross-reference, and I realised that was way too complicated. So in the end, I just went, the person nominates a story, chooses their favourite thing about each episode, and then one bonus thing, and I just have to watch it and go, I'll see if I can choose the same favourite thing as they do. And of course, I invariably don't. And if I do, I get to eat one of their children or something. I haven't worked out the rules yet. But it just means it's a little driver. But actually, that is less important. I needed some sort of driver so it just had some sort of focus and some sort of aim. What's been really interesting about it is the way that the different people I've asked have responded to the task. So Simon Gurrier, for example, he chose really sort of oddball, slightly left field things about. So one of the things he chose about his story, which is largely a missing story, is that we don't actually know what happens in the first 4 minutes because the script's not very clear and the soundtrack's not very clear. So what he likes about it is the fact that we have to sort of make up in our head what's there, the fact that there's a mystery to solve, whereas some people have just gone, I like that monster, or and some other people have gone, well, I like this because as a writer I think the way that they do that and then they do this. So different creative people have responded to it in different ways, and I think I've asked very interesting people. I got really excited because I asked people like Jeremy Bentham and Richard Marson and David Howe, the sort of fans that laid the foundations when I was young, these sort of venerable names of fandom, and they've really responded really well. And I think some of those guys have been a little overlooked sometimes in the history of Doctor Who. And Richard Marson didn't want to just talk to camera, so I Zoomed him and we chatted about his choice of story. And within that, I also got, the history of burgeoning fandom in the early days of Doctor Who magazine and how those things tied in with his love of the show. And so each story, has me looking at a story, but it showcases a different Doctor Who fan whose experiences will either chime or inform or surprise or amuse listeners, depending on who the listener is. And that's been really nice. And it's actually been quite touching witnessing people who've gone into the thing to help me out and say, oh, I'll tell Toby what I like about this story. And it's opened up a Pandora's box of sort of memories and feelings or experiences, or some have just, been really funny. So it's been a mixture. So that's been a really pleasant surprise to that.
And all these are out on the same feed, Toby Hadoke's Time Travels, which you could find on podcast feeds, but also it's on YouTube as well, right?
Well, I thought, because a friend of ours does, she lives on her own, or she doesn't live with fans of anything. She was a big fan of Game of Thrones, and she hated watching Game of Thrones on her own, and she watched people watching Game of Thrones. Like my son watches people playing video games, which baffled me. And she said, well, if you're doing commentaries, why don't you do it to camera? And again, this tied in with the fact that we're all a bit lonely. So I thought, well, if I film it, it'll be like the person watching is at my house. So I'm basically saying, come to my house and watch Doctor Who with me, and I'll sort of chat to you whilst I watch Doctor Who. So that works just as a soundtrack for the podcast version. But I'm also, I will be putting them on YouTube, where I'll be putting subtitles where I've got a bit wrong as well. I might go, I think this got 9 million viewers. I go, actually, it's 9.5, you idiot. Just because I can't let a mistake go and I can't re-record it. And I don't want people writing in. There's actually a section at the end of each one called I Think You'll Find, and I've done a little ident just where I go, when I said that wasn't quite right. But so I thought to have the video option was the way of killing two birds with one stone. And I'll see what is more popular, what people digest the most, and obviously I'll prioritise those in terms of output. But it'll all end up, I'll get a system in place at some point. But the plan is to do video and audio versions so that people can either have either or both. And yes, it's on an iTunes feed. I had to call it Toby Hadoke's Time Travels because I couldn't release them all separately because that would have cost more. So I then came up with an alliterative and very hastily thought out umbrella title, which is of course going to be the one that everyone sees after I've agonised for hours over the individual titles, which I think are quite neat. But there we go. That's the nature of it. And I've got little logos for each one, and it's on iTunes, or I think it's called Apple Podcasts now. It's on a thing called a Podbean, and it just goes everywhere. I don't quite know how it works, but it seems to be. And I've got this Patreon page as well, which is patreon.com/Toby Hadoke, where you can get the advanced stuff, or you can influence what I do, or you can just, for a very small amount, you can have access to me to tell me you think I'm awful, but please don't.
What a wonderful incentive.
And a badge. And you can have a badge.
Yeah, I would love a badge. I might do that. Just get the badge. Excellent. The podcast drops November 23rd, which is tomorrow as this episode comes out, or today for all those people who hold this over to listen to on Monday. Toby Hadoke, it's been wonderful to not only talk to you, but to have you back in the Doctor Who podcasting world on a regular basis. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and happy Doctor Who Day, everybody. Happy times and places.
Welcome back. Oh boy, everyone. This is, I've been looking forward to / dreading this episode. If only because it reminds me of very happy times at Gallifrey 1. Because this is the episode that aired that weekend, and we all watched it in a big auditorium and laughed and cried and oohed and awed. And we, even though we didn't meet at the convention, we are assured that our guests were at said convention. It's Katelyn and Brenna from the Queer Archive podcast. How you doing?
Oh, we are living the dream. How about y'all?
Fabulous.
But the same, yeah.
Yeah, doing exactly what you're doing, talking about Doctor Who episodes that, as I remind everyone this each week, this series of Doctor Who aired during the calendar year that we're currently in.
Oh my God.
Doesn't feel like it. Yep,
No, it does not.
It apparently did. Apparently did. So when you see their year in review and you flip back 188 pages to it's Doctor Who aired. That's right. When we were full of optimism. How'd you enjoy Gallifrey 1, by the way? All those years ago.
All those years ago. That was a great galley.
Oh my gosh.
And watching this was
One for the books. Absolutely.
I mean, you couldn't hear anything.
No.
Yeah.
At least where we were in the
Sound
room.
plus just our continual screaming and general just delight of the episode. Between those two things, it was like, I don't know what they're saying. I think there were subtitles on.
Yeah,
so
I think the subs were on.
that definitely helped.
Yeah.
But we enjoyed it nonetheless.
I actually think not to like toot my own horn here, but I actually pushed for subtitles to happen because I knew that people would ooh and ah.
Bless.
So I think I actually found the truck that backed up and actually had a copy of the episode.
I believe you
So
did.
It was
Find
me.
that metaphorical truck.
Yeah. So I contributed. I feel good about that. That we all had a great moment. The Queer Archive, which started in August of last year. Like, you're relatively new to the Doctor Who podcast game.
Yeah, we are, baby.
Yeah. What made you decide to start a podcast?
That'll be Katelyn was the deciding factor there.
I made it happen.
That's
I
true.
just basically pestered Brenna for months and months about we should do this thing. And then I was like, when are we going to do this thing? Let's buy the microphone. And that's at the point I knew you were serious about committing to it because you started researching microphones. So I was like, what?
Yeah.
We're doing this? But I don't know. I had been listening to Tarbis for a while and I had enjoyed it so much that I felt like I was talking back to the podcast. And I was like, okay, I just need to start recording this stuff with Brenna so that we're actually having a conversation with other people rather than just talking to myself in my car. Seeing other awesome podcasts out there that my friends were doing, I was like, well, we could do one. And then we decided to start with season 8, which seems pretty random, or series 8, excuse me, which seems pretty random to folks, but it was just, we love Peter Capaldi, and we're like, let's just go for his beginning and then see where we end up.
Definitely. That's a good place to start. I mean, Verity started at a Christmas special, which was it? The Snowmen, I think. That just happened to be they decided upon, let's start a podcast, but let's wait until the newest episode comes out. And so that, I always think of that being the starting point of their podcast. Why wouldn't you start with Peter Capaldi? He is, I think he might be my favorite.
He is my doctor. Yeah. He is my doctor for sure.
Yeah. It's
So
good
great.
stuff.
He better be my doctor. I have a tattoo of his stuff on me. Imagine.
Don't do anything problematic, Peter. I don't think he will.
Yeah,
I hope not.
I think we're safe.
Stay.
I think we're safe. Knock on wood. We're pretty lucky with the doctor actors. Not
So far.
Again, knocking on.
I'm knocking on some wood. for
Either
us,
just
but-
being decent humans or just minding their own business.
Yeah.
I'll take either.
Peter
Or
Capaldi
they
minds
politely
his own
died
business.
before scandals came about.
Yeah, that is true. That is
Peter,
true.
not Peter Davison. Good God,
That-
Patrick Troughton.
Wow.
That's what I meant to say.
Oh yeah. Well, all right. So we're talking about Doctor Who actors dying. Before this goes any further, we should probably watch the
You betcha.
episode. Everyone's got their legally purchased Blu-ray, DVD, everything like that with this wonderful episode on it. Excellent. Here we go then, everyone. The Haunting of Villa Diodati in 3, 2, 1, play.
Let's go. I
There.
love this episode.
I'm gonna try really hard to not go super hard on Frankenstein.
Go super hard on Frankenstein.
Because my students just finished
Yeah, do
reading
it.
Frankenstein literally this week.
Oh, see
Give
what?
the
No,
people
that's
what they
good.
want.
That's good. I love that. I tweeted this last night as we record this. The opening lines of this episode. I feel confined. I can't bear it. The very world itself is sick. This episode knew what we were about to get into in 2020.
Oh yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
It's also, Mary Shelley wrote so many letters and had lots and lots of journals. So all of these opening lines that they are saying are pulled from actual letters that Mary Shelley sent during her lifetime.
Get out.
This is excellent. I won't.
Well, so that settles that.
That told me. I am a Philistine when it comes to these things, so I am very eager to learn about this. I had to Wikipedia basically Villa Diodati.
Yeah.
The writing came to play. Like she knew what she was doing.
Yeah. That was actually a bonus question on my students' midterm today. What's the name of the house where they spent the summer of 1816? Villa Diodati.
Any Doctor Who nerds would get that right away.
Yeah.
I love that the story gets, like, they just get away with so much. It's like a comedy of manners and a ghost story and a flat-out horror film at the end. And then it's also a build-up to more lunacy 2 episodes down the road.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that there's a cliffhanger, but there's still like 5 minutes after the cliffhanger happens. So you still have stuff happening at the end of the episode after they're like, oh God, he has the thing he's not supposed to have. It's a good episode. It's interesting.
Falling action, I believe, is probably what it would be called, wouldn't it? Am I right in that?
I love a technical term.
Oh, see? Not so much a Philistine after all. I remember something from high school. Yeah. I just find it like, being a Philistine, please allow me to express something that I discovered for the first time that everyone has known about for 200 years. But just the fact that this actually happened, this historical event happened where a bunch of young fops gathered in a house and dared each other to write scary stories, and like basically this is the birth of the horror movement right here in this house on a weekend in June of 1816. It's just like, come on, that didn't happen.
It did.
It did.
What's great too is that Mary Shelley, so they sort of condense the timeline into one night. It happens the challenge begins over about 3 days. But at the beginning, Mary Shelley says, I can't think of anything, and she's really struggling. And then she writes in a letter later that she has a vision of a body, it's a corpse that she sees that's been reanimated, and the idea sort of evolves from there, which is part of why I think that's so fascinating.
Mm-hmm. I would just have
a great femme entrance too.
Very great. Yeah.
Oh, they're so good.
This opening is just such a banger.
It's so good.
One of the best. Absolutely.
Especially since we don't always get cold opens.
That's true.
No, I like that they don't force it. Like if it's there, we'll use it. If there is no point to it, then we're not going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I love that the psychic paper
doesn't work on them because they're all geniuses. I love it. Yeah.
And 13's so embarrassed.
Really? Nothing?
Like, what else has Maxine Alderton written? Because she kills this episode. Like, it's ridiculous how...
I think she has quite a following, actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just don't know what else it is, because I'm not one of them, but
no.
I loved this episode.
Yeah, find out for us, Warren. Or Chris is usually our fact checker on these things, but...
True.
Also, femme in period costumes, which is a demand I made during Series 11, which never happened, and now we've had 2 or 3 episodes where they've been dressed up, and...
Finally.
But I also love that 13 is having none of it.
Okay, but what is her vest?
That's true.
I'm sorry, but I love her outfit because it is ridiculous.
She slapped on a vest and then put her trench coat back on.
I love it so much.
Is it a vest or is it like a button-up shirt? I can't quite tell.
I think it's
Emmerdale and Worst Witch. Yeah. That's the Maxine Alderton's stuff, apparently.
Emmerdale? Really?
Yeah. That's 118 episodes of Emmerdale. And The Worst Witch, which I think is a kid's show.
She didn't write 118 episodes. Come on.
That's what it says on IMDb, which is never wrong.
She didn't script edit. I'm not doubting her ability.
It's just a lot of episodes.
Writing 100. It's a lot of episodes.
No, it says written by 118 episodes.
Wow.
But Emmerdale's every day too, right? So
yeah,
5 days a week, I think.
Well, I know that, but that makes it even more impressive.
And that's over, let's see here, 2006 to 2020, something like that, 2013 to 2020. So
Fletcher's face.
Fletcher's so good.
What an iconic character.
Oh my God. Yeah. So I that eye roll when he comes to the door is the best. I remember everyone laughing at him, and I have to say that like Toby Hadoke tweeted just random praise for him and tagged him, and I responded saying like the auditorium, like I think he was one of the favorite parts of this whole episode for people watching it live. It was so great hearing the reaction, and I think it made his day, and it was just nice to like like it was probably like 1 or 2 days on set for him. He's just there. He's probably feeling good about his performance, but you don't necessarily get the convention invites for a supporting role like that. And so I was glad that he had the knowledge that there was a whole bunch of people who really enjoyed his performance in this.
Just deeply over their shenanigans this whole entire episode. These kids be testing me.
I remember when he died later in the episode, the whole room was like,
And he does everything. Like, he's the valet. He plays piano. I mean, what a thankless job.
Truly.
I like how Graham's whole thing is, I've got to pee for about 10 minutes of this thing.
And then eat. Like, that's really his range.
That's what he does.
I mean, in these pandemic times, what else we got? And
they were truly, what else are we doing?
In fact, they were there because of a pandemic, weren't they?
It was a volcanic eruption caused this.
Okay.
It was Mount Tabora.
Tabora.
Where's that? There wasn't. It was the year without a summer, so it was basically winter weather.
Gross.
Winter weather. You've never been to Canada 1816. You don't know what winter weather's like.
We live in Southern California, so we really can't speak to winter.
No idea. Yeah.
I would never claim
that. No, we wouldn't.
I'm a baby.
I mean, with this
we missed the section where it was happening, but where they're telling everyone all the hot gossip about each other because it is 100% accurate.
Yep.
They were just like a hot mess historically.
And I like it because it seems natural, like they're filling in their visitors. We know it through history, but they don't. Yeah. They know it's not famous in history yet, and so it educates the viewers, which is always good.
It's double duty, but they are just very messy.
Oh my God, they're so messy.
They love it.
My students, when we did the intro to Frankenstein and I was talking about Mary Shelley and Percy getting together, they were like, really? And I was like, oh yeah.
And that's not all.
And that's not all. Actually, she probably also got together with Byron at one point. My students were like, no. And I was like, oh yeah.
And next year I'll tell you the rest.
Yeah.
The spooky in this episode is so well done.
Yeah.
Right.
Just nailed it.
I love that they have an Evil Dead reference here. At least I'm going to say it's Evil Dead.
Oh, I see that there. Like, I just love the shots of like the woman and then the girl later on in the episode, like how the camera doesn't focus on them. They just happen to be there.
And how they're completely unrelated ghosts.
Yeah. And because, television technology has increased so highly, I bet you this is probably all shot like by natural candlelight. Like this is
the lighting is so good.
It is so good. I know they shot by natural candlelight in Hyde, and this is coming years after like Amadeus. They had to get like special RAF type lenses
Area
too.
Alexa, which can definitely pull that off.
Yeah, but nowadays anyone can pull it off. There's the girl right there we saw.
No, not anyone can pull it off. Yeah. I tried to take nighttime shots with my Canon T5 last night. Trust me, you can't.
Oh no, Warren.
Or at least I can't.
You're doing it wrong. I threw on my iPhone 8 and I got some great shots from I didn't at all actually, but
of course you didn't.
Your iPhone 8. You must be a real pro.
I am. Listen,
and a millionaire.
Yeah. I don't leave my house. Yes, I need a new phone, but like I'm thinking, when do I need this phone? I don't.
Well, when you decide to take pictures by candlelight.
That's true. The iPhone 12.
Clearly.
Naturally.
This conversation explicitly fails the Bechdel test.
Yes, it does.
They're 100%.
And you got the doctor right there, who is not male. Like, just talk about the doctor.
Okay, I would like you to know that the script does stay shipping Thasmin because it actually says in the lines coming up, Yaz can't help but think of the doctor.
Yeah.
So it shifts there, but most of the time, yeah, you're right.
I remember when this scene happened, we looked at each other and we were like, "Are they?
Oh dear God!
Are they actually doing? They're doing it. They're making it gay." And then they were like, "Oh, we're gonna faint just a little bit. We'll figure out." And we were like, "Oh, okay."
The tease.
It was close. It was close.
I was basically like that wisdom tooth kid sitting in my chair, just like gradually almost standing on my chair, like what? And then those were the screams that I mentioned earlier.
Which
not the scary screams, the like is Thasmin happening screams.
If you listen to the Echelon Circuit, you heard us. Not illegally record a galley panel. We would never do that.
No, I certainly didn't hear clips of it, of the screening either on the podcast review of this either. I don't know what you're talking about. It kind of caught me. Hey, this is, I don't want to talk over. There's so many good things to talk over, but that's what we're doing. We're doing a commentary. But they sort of like brought it up, the Thasmin thing in Arachnids from the last year, and then it kind of like went away. And so when that scene happened, I thought, oh, whoa, this again. Oh, I'm intrigued. Finally.
Yeah, I was listening to your episode on Orphan 55 earlier.
Yep.
And I was just agreeing with the general sentiment that Series 11 was enjoyable, but had some issues that were getting, at least they weren't happening here. And we talked about that in one of our episodes too, that before Series 12 began. I said, I hope Series 12 swings harder and takes bigger risks. And I think they did. I think there's a lot of really great episodes in Series 12.
This episode does a really good job, like this conversation happening with Ryan right now, at having like a balance of the general plot, the side character exploration, and actually getting development for the TARDIS fam. Yeah. Which doesn't always happen at like a good ratio. Mm-hmm. This episode nails it.
Do love a little gentle shade for Harold's pilgrimage. Child Harold, terrible. She says, goes on a little bit that.
Yeah, she did. She's not having any of his stuff.
Byron.
Lord Byron, if you will.
Not even barking up the wrong tree. There is no tree to bark up here.
Yeah.
No, you may not.
Could not be less interested.
I'm just really enjoying
his characterization. Yeah.
His
characterization is so accurate.
Yeah,
to like his historical figure.
Mm-hmm. I looked up who was the DP for this episode because I was like, the lighting in here is so good from start to finish. And it's Ed Moore, who also did Can You Hear Me? And I was like, that explains. That explains. Because I think the lighting is great in Can You Hear Me? Also, that's the same director. That's Emma Sullivan, too.
It is, same block, Mm-hmm. I mean, one of the thankfully increasingly less rare instances of an episode both written and directed by a woman. I think we've had, 2 or 3 now in the Chibnall year?
Yeah. And I think this is the second one where it's both, right?
Yeah.
Unless I'm missing one, because it's Witchfinders in this one.
Correct, yeah.
I hope we get a live commentary of this one, the Fletcher's face.
This is my one problem with this thing. He's a bus driver. A chamber pot is not a big deal. I'm sure he's had many an instance where he was like, anywhere will do.
Yeah.
Ollie said, "Nuck if you buck. Let's go, Ryan."
He's being especially, I don't know, Sheffieldy, whatever. It's not cocky.
Yeah.
That's a nope on this disembodied hand skeleton thing.
It's a pass for me.
Fletcher's just, no. Come on.
Oh, but our boy gets it with the follow through here.
Oh, yeah. He swats with the tray.
Yeah.
I think you may be a smidgen ahead of us.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I played at the same time.
Oh.
No, I think I'm just anticipating the beats. Sorry.
Okay, good.
I was like,
you've watched this
I know this episode
before.
well.
Wow.
Oh.
Good. Okay, good. That is creepy. That is legitimately creepy. The hand.
Ryan does ham it up, or Tosin Cole hams it up just a little, though.
He is so great, Tosin Cole.
He's quite good at hamming it up, though.
He is.
He's actually so funny, and I'm so glad that they let him play with that a little bit more in Series 12. I'm sorry to see him going in the next series.
Allegedly.
But at least allegedly. Yeah. I mean, he's been cast in another show, so I think we can speak with some confidence in that.
Well,
but
we've all been cast in other shows.
Well, pre-COVID, he was cast in another show.
Yeah, it's the worst show ever. The soap opera never ends.
Yeah.
It's a veritable Emmerdale.
Yeah, no, I interviewed him on stage at Chicago TARDIS, and you got the sense that there was a sense of finality to it. I think the fact that he was invited to the convention at all, like just mere like weeks after he'd finished recording the Christmas special, you just got the feeling that he's probably done.
Yeah.
Huh.
I mean, it's a hard job. Almost all of them have talked about it. They work for like 10 months out of the year, and then you maybe get 1 month off before you're starting up again on promotion. I'm sure it's brutal.
Absolutely.
And 2 seasons is a pretty good run for a companion.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
It's very rare, like in the
Not to
history.
mention 3 of them.
Yeah, in the annals of the show, it's very rare for a companion to stay more than 2. Chris
So Yaz is about to break the record.
Yeah, I know. It feels weird. Like, it doesn't feel like when you're living in Doctor Who, like the history as it's happening, for some reason, it doesn't feel as long because, you watch it for 10 weeks and then it's gone for 40 more or more. And so only when you're sort of like watching a big box set, you're thinking, wow, Clara was here forever, wasn't she?
Well, 2.5 seasons anyway, yeah.
I know, but it just feels longer. Maybe because
If
she
you
spanned
acknowledge her
Doctors.
season with 11, I guess.
Yeah, if you believe in season 7, that's true. There is no leaf for us.
There is no... excellent. A Ring of Akaten hater. Okay, here we go.
All right, you're amongst friends.
You are
Okay,
you
good.
are,
I was like, this is a hill on which I will gladly die.
You are on
Now's
such a
not
safe
the time,
space.
Brenna.
Such
you
a
don't
safe
have time.
There is one good thing about that episode to me, and it is Murray Gold's score, and the rest of it can go for forever. Yes, that hat.
And so I watched whenever I skip by Rings of Akaten, I'm always struck by the score and going, oh, that was used much better somewhere else. And I forgot about it because I forget everything about Rings of Akaten.
It's in his regeneration speech because Murray Gold be like that.
Yeah.
And that's what I identify it with. So when I see it in Rings of Akaten, I'm actually indignant. I'm like, what? Oh, wait.
What is this?
Graham and his snacks.
Graham and his sarnies. Look at Polidori. I do. I mean, we were just
Hugh Grant vibe off this guy.
Hugh Grant. Is it
Well, he's
the
a
wig?
fop with curly hair. Yeah, basically, it is the wig, actually.
And I get a total Anna Paquin vibe off.
I do get
Shelley.
a bit of an Anna Paquin vibe. Yeah.
In other news, we are old.
From Mary Shelley.
Oh. We were talking about this earlier. Was it earlier today or yesterday? We were talking about horror conventions and how Emma's using them here, the director. And it reminds me a lot of how Mike Flanagan uses empty space in The Haunting of Hill House and The Haunting of Bly Manor, where he will show you a shot with like an empty doorway or an empty hallway behind somebody. And then some, like the lighting won't change. Nothing really changes except for there's a cutaway. And then at the next cut, there's something there that you can't quite see yet.
And then you can't unsee it.
Yeah, and then you can't unsee it. That's I made Caitlin watch The Haunting of Hill House, and they've never forgiven me since. But I do think that this was Emma Sullivan put to good use in that she took the 2 horror-y ones, and I mean the lighting, the beats, the direction, it's all a spooky, which is very nice.
Literally this second as we record this, Erica is in the other room watching an episode of Haunting of Bly House. So, Bly Manor, rather. I know. I like the outfit. I like whatever top she's got. Not that I dislike the various rainbow tops that she's been wearing, but I like an outfit that can be adapted and still maintain the same silhouette,
I think it's a nice vest, actually. It looks like
I love the vest. It's such a her look.
It is such a her look.
So ridiculous.
And after we watched this episode, when she first put on the hat, we were like, there will be cosplayers in that hat weeks from now.
Yeah.
Lovely.
And
They're instantly working on that excellent hat. And then, that's right.
Well, they have like a year and a half to get ready for it. So I do expect that hat to be seen at Gallifrey 1 in 2022.
I also think we will definitely see a ribbon.
Remember when we were so excited to see it and nobody snog Byron ribbon at 2021? And now we have to wait.
Just hold on to all those memes you had built up and just remember those. And Do a rewatch
Because
of
we're
the series.
certainly not getting any more New Who besides the festive special.
Probably not.
Before
I
then.
guess. Yeah. Maybe it'll
They
air
were
at the
supposed
same
to start
time.
shooting. Yeah.
I heard that they're shooting relatively around the same planned
Well, they were
time.
supposed to start already.
Okay.
Which might
I
well
don't
be,
know.
by the time this comes out, like in late November, they might already be underway. Dear listeners, if you're listening to this in the glorious future. Oh, that's
Hope
creepy.
springs eternal.
Yeah.
Put it out there. Do
Yeah.
it.
I do love the long shots of the what we later
good.
find out is the Cybermen out there. It's just this weird. Now, was Polidori an actual sleepwalker, or is this just an embellishment for the case of the?
He did have sleep problems, and he was a sort of grouchy fellow, according to Mary Shelley's letters. So
like him
it's
already.
not a big exaggeration.
Okay.
I might be reaching, and if I am, that's okay. It's an English major nerd thing. In Frankenstein, the Victor Frankenstein, he studies the mystic arts. He's into like alchemy and stuff. And there is a very dramatic scene where there's a big storm and a strike of lightning hits an old oak tree that's out in front of his school. And it's a big symbol in the book, but it's like a deciding moment where he realizes that alchemy is not enough to do what he wants. So he needs to broaden his horizons in order to make the thing he wants to make. So I kind of feel like the Cybermen, when it's those long shots of him flashing in and out, it's supposed to echo the lightning hitting the oak tree in the book. But like I said, it could be a reach.
That doesn't feel like a reach.
No, he also gets struck by lightning. I suppose Mary Shell doesn't actually see it when he gets struck by lightning when he's got his hand out of the window there.
Yeah.
That might be a little too on the nose, but
Channels the elements.
When he's powering up like Super Saiyan. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh.
Poor Ryan. We're stuck on the stairs. That's me whenever an escalator gets shut down. Like, we're stuck on the stairs.
What do I do?
Always makes me think of Mitch Hedberg. Sorry for the convenience. Escalator has become stairs. Yeah.
Forgot about that bit. The way that he hides behind
I
her.
know.
No, you may not.
Now I'm just watching. I'm watching it.
I know.
I
It's a
watched
great
this
episode.
I know. We haven't even got to like the super good bits yet, even.
I do feel like it's one of the more Britishy episodes. Like they've got Gaff, and she just said he's on a mini break, and there's another one that's like British slang where I was like, oh, we upped the British ante in this one, which is fine.
Red
love
Girls
it.
real hard.
Yeah, I love it when they lean into it. You're British. We all watch you because you're British. At least I do, anyway.
I watch it because some other nerd recommended it to me, and now I'll never not watch it.
Really? Which nerd was that?
It was actually my boss at the time. I worked at Disneyland for 7 years.
Oh, wow.
And my my manager was like, "Have you ever tried Doctor Who?" And I was like, "No, what is that?" And he was like, "It's a sci-fi show. You'll like it." And I tried a couple episodes, and I went back to him and I was like, "You said I would like this, and I am not seeing it." And he was like, "Okay, I'm giving you a specific list of episodes to try. Go in this order, and that will show you where the show will end up." And then it'll give you like something to look forward to. And I was like, okay. And then it hooked me. It was good enough.
Did the trick.
But pizza's hard to get through, y'all. If that's your first one.
Oh, wow.
A little bit, yeah. Fair enough.
It worked for a lot of people. It doesn't. Not every episode works for everyone. That's the thing.
I won't yuck people's yum. I know some people really enjoy Rose. That was
Okay.
just rough going for me.
Can we just admire the fact that this dude took the time to like compose that skull and the hand together and they tucked it into
In the crib?
blanket? Yeah. That was pretty rude.
I think we've got no shortage of dramatic personas in this episode.
Absolutely. Every one of these is a character.
Everyone's rolling hard for high drama.
Yeah. The house is a character, you know?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
The way that it changes up everything. And I assume it's a set.
Into the wall.
I can't unsee Anna Paquin whenever Mary Shelley's on screen now. So thanks, Chris.
It's in there for forever now.
Yeah.
One thing we did look up when watching this episode was, is that skull the skull of modeled after Peter Capaldi's
From
actual
Heaven's End.
skull?
Yeah.
Is it just like a skull
It
kicking
wouldn't
around?
surprise me, yeah.
'Cause they must have made like 1 billion of those things for heaven's sake. So
Yeah, unfortunately, it was not.
It was not.
Oh.
I actually literally paused it and did like a side-by-side comparison of a screenshot.
We were looking for the brow bone.
We were.
that
It does
is
not
Peter
have a prominent
Capaldi's.
enough brow. That
Yeah.
is true.
That is the audiovisual equivalent of punching a diamond mountain for 2 billion years.
that is.
Well, like Freud said, sometimes the skull is just a skull.
That's true.
I admire that dedication. Believe me, I do. Oof. Just like, oh, that's creepy. That is, as we see the hand in the globe and the jar. I mean,
You know, this makes me laugh a little bit. I just expect him to start talking.
the hand or
The
the
skull?
No, the skull. Hey guys, how's it going?
Like the mouth of Craig the I mean,
Exactly, yeah.
what was the name of the robot on Craig Ferguson show? I forgot.
Jeff.
The robot.
Yep.
I quite enjoyed the Craig Ferguson show. Bet you Jody would have been on there like 3 or 4 times a year had he still been doing it by now.
Capaldi was on there a few times, so.
He's only on there once.
Well, they're
it
old
was more
buddies,
than
right?
once.
So-
It was definitely more
well,
than once.
since when he became Doctor Who, I think.
Oh, that may be.
Yeah. There it is. Here we go. Now we're getting the history lesson. When we don't have English majors on the podcast like we do today, we can...
English majors
right
become sudden and short-term intense experts on things, and then we immediately eject that information to make room for more sudden and intense expertise.
Right.
Well, as a journalist, I completely understand that because I do that on a daily basis. Also, just going to say, I was getting serious Sarah Silverman vibes off of Yasmin there.
Really?
Yeah, she just the way her head was tilted. I was like, is
Oh.
that Sarah Silverman? No, it's...
Yes.
Why would she
No,
be in
Slapped her
this?
in for a second.
Yeah, known for her head tilts is Sarah Silverman.
That's what I always think of first.
Yeah. Oh, Sarah. Oh, that woman who tilts
And not
her
her
head.
filthy,
Yeah.
filthy mouth.
Yes.
Or her star-making appearance in that episode of Star Trek Voyager.
Oh, damn, you beat me to it.
Yeah.
That is the second thing I think of.
I mean, she's no Andy Dick in an episode of Star Trek Voyager. Thank God.
Andy Dick is a person I haven't thought of in many years.
Listen,
Nor
listen,
did I.
I'm happy
They
to
showed
keep
up
it that
on Star
way.
Trek Voyager, and I was like, what? This guy? Oh, this is going
Listen. We're here to talk about this episode. We've already talked about the Rings of Akaton, Star Trek Voyager, and Andy Dick. Let's keep
the
this
worst.
positive here,
Sorry.
okay?
That's a trifecta right there.
Yeah.
Let me.
If you wanted us to stay focused, you invited the wrong guests onto your podcast. I'll say that, which you would know if you had listened to ours.
Well,
On the wrong lifetime co-host, too.
if you had listened to our commentaries, maybe you'd know that we have a hard time staying on topic
Absolutely.
too. So
Recipe for disaster.
Now we're all lost.
we're all lost. I hope you're enjoying the episode, everyone. Simon just appeared. Remember when the Simon
Yes.
appeared and everyone like in the auditorium went, "Whoa!" It was pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
Well, he's an especially creepy looking one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say Patrick O'Kane, the actor who's playing the Cyberman, is so good and so upsetting, and his contact makes me feel very upset every time I see it.
It's like everything that we see.
Yeah,
Everything.
his teeth.
Like, why the teeth? Okay, Chibnall. But really,
Yeah.
if I ever
Chibnall
meet
does have
that
a
dude,
teeth thing.
I have some questions because have we not been through enough with Sim Shaw? Like Chibnall and his villains. Like there's a thread that I'm seeing. It's very troubling.
Of
I don't
upsetting
know-
teeth
I don't know
in
if he has
upsetting
like
places.
teeth trauma.
Okay, so
but
my question is,
there's a
which is
lot.
worse? Stephen Moffat's obsession with stern villain ladies or the teeth
Oh
thing?
goodness, that is apples and oranges, my friend.
It is apples and oranges.
And what's Russell T Davies, because he's got 1 or 2 at least. I can't think of it off the top of my head.
I don't know either what his little trope was.
A lot of fat shaming. He did love to fat shame.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We have to say goodbye to poor Fletcher.
I know.
Oh, maybe y'all
We
are
are
a little
ahead.
behind us.
Yeah.
Yeah, our bad.
He just
Yeah,
got
the
thro-
deaths of
got thrown to the
Fletcher
floor.
and yeah, that was upsetting. Pour one out for him later, but the deaths of him and the nanny were
Elise. Yeah.
unsettling.
Yeah, the nanny's coming up. Oh God, this is There are some genuinely horrific, like, horror movie moments.
Yeah, her screaming and then it going away with the sound of the crack is like,
Yeah.
no!
Like, you know,
Let's not.
previous like episodes of Doctor Who would be like the Cyberman would like open up the thing, she would scream, they'd cut to a different scene, they'd cut back, and she'd be dead
right,
already.
yep.
We actually are there for the moment of her passing. It's just like, oh God. And you're right,
And the
like
thing is, Cybermen are just generally kind of goofy, except maybe the Mondasian Cybermen because they're so bizarre. Like in the current stuff. But this guy is just scariest Cyberman ever, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
And you think he's going to kill the child too. And boy, Doctor Who would be remarkably daring if they slaughtered a newborn on a Sunday evening.
Just break that sentence down, would you?
Yeah.
Why don't we revisit the concept?
Yeah.
It's also historically upsetting because poor Mary Shelley had 5 pregnancies, 4 children, and only 1 lived. And it's not William. It was her daughter, the last one she had that lived.
Oh.
So the stakes are already, if you know that going into it, it feels high when he picks William up. Even though William dies from a fever, I think 2 years after this.
This confrontation scene, by the way, is brilliant. I love it. From her sitting on the bed,
It's
just
the
waiting
bed.
for him.
Yeah.
It is the bed shot.
That's the shot.
The promo shot with
The
the
promo
great
shot.
lighting. Oh,
Yeah, right?
Slayed all of the Sapphic women.
yes.
Yeah, just, you know, I sort of looked at Jodie in a different light when I saw that photo.
She had that energy, though.
Yeah. You know, and going back to dumping on Series 11, not really. But, you know, this type of scene we didn't really get, you know, because there was a lot of people who turned out like maybe they're bad. No, they're actually good. But like here is Jodie like confronting pure evil here, and she's doing it alone. And I like that. She's not sort of like explaining things to the fam. She's sort of like speaking on the level right here. And I like it.
And just giving him nothing but a hard time.
Yeah.
It was also nice to see them take advantage of Jodie's considerable range in Series 12, because Series 11 was, I think, mostly anodyne on purpose to try and recruit new viewers. I totally understand. But Jodie is incredible and very talented, so it was nice to see them give her a little more stuff to work with.
More meat.
Yeah. She is devastating in Broadchurch. She's very good.
Oh, I know. I've only
Most
seen the
things
first
I've
season,
seen. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have not even tried to watch Broadchurch
I
because
don't
of
think you
those
would like
reasons.
it. Yeah.
And I've seen a couple other things that she's in, and devastating is definitely her bag.
Her lane.
Yeah.
She's real good at it.
I saw
She's
a clip
good
of
at
her.
the Black Mirror she's in.
You haven't seen that.
Oh, yeah.
I saw a clip of her on stage in a play with Christopher Eccleston. She's like yelling at Eccleston. And it's like, holy crap. Like, look I'm not usually a play fan, all that shouting in the evening and all that, but like, man, she was just like electric.
Wow. Like you boiled down
All
500
that
years
shouting
of craft.
in the evening.
That's a Troughton thing. Patrick Troughton called stage acting shouting in the evening, and I
Shouting in the evening.
shouting in the evening. He didn't like theater, so he always thought everyone was shouting.
Oh.
There it is. There's the the electricity bolt. In case you're wondering where we're at here in the
That's
in
where the clock
past.
tower gets hit, and we go back to 1985.
That's true. 10:04 p.m.
1.21 gigawatts.
There it is.
Is that tomorrow? I think it's tomorrow's Back to the Future Day, right?
It was
I
today.
had no idea.
As we record
As we
this,
record
yeah,
this
I think it
today.
is.
I had no clue. I just
October
said off the top of my head.
22nd. Yeah.
I think that's called Synergy.
Those are remarkably well-written films.
Yeah. Synergy. Listen, I stopped working in an office in 2016. I didn't think I'd hear that word in a meeting again.
I like how you called this a meeting.
It is on Zoom, so.
Yeah. Ooh. So I'm just impressed by the amount of like shots lit by candlelight in this whole episode. It just looked fantastic. TV has never looked so good. I mean, you mentioned Rose. I mean, Rose is 15 years ago, but it's like a billion years ago when you think about like what TV looks like now, you know?
It is. And I mean, I started watching, part of why Rose was such rough going for me was I started watching in 2013.
Yep.
So you have 2013 eyes looking back on Pizza. And then if you, let's say you start with Jodie and then during the hiatus, you're like, maybe I'll go back. And then you try to
dear
backtrack.
God.
Oof.
Yeah.
10
And I
points
have
for
Chibnall
Huatus,
money
by
yet.
the way. Yeah. Jim No Money. Yes. His
I
own
showed,
money.
My girlfriend's seen most of New Who now, except for some of the Smith stuff. And I showed her an old Tom Baker episode, and she thought it was charming and fun, but it definitely, she did comment on how it looked.
Well,
because it don't look good.
Well, listen.
Which one?
They did what they could.
Pyramids of Mars.
Of course, yeah.
Ward, of course, will start with that. Oh, you don't like Pyramids of Mars? Well, sorry, it doesn't get any better than this. So,
Oh, no, she liked it.
no.
oh, she did like it. Okay.
Yeah.
I think there's also definitely a divide between Classic Who, which is, like you said, charming when it tries for special effects.
Yeah.
I can't remember the title of the series I watched. There's a Baker one where there's a giant worm thing, and it's made out of bubble wrap that's been spray painted green.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Creature from the Pit.
Ark in Space.
Ark in
Yeah.
Space, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was a scream, and that it looks awful. But when you're watching it, you're like, this is so cute. I love it so much.
Absolutely.
The thing is, the writing is still stellar no matter
Yeah.
what. So.
Oh, yeah. And he's great.
Yeah.
So that is different than when CGI was still evolving and you watch it and the acting is still good and some of the scripts are good, but you're kind of like, I don't know about that. Yeah. I don't know about that giant devil-looking thing in the Satan pit. I don't know about that.
How dare you?
It is very PlayStation. It's a great couple episodes, but it is
Yeah.
very PlayStation. I have to agree.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
They ran out of money. It was 2006, which is an eternity ago.
Yeah.
And it's also
Yeah.
before they were able to extort a huge budget out of the BBC.
That too. In
And it was
fact,
BBC, so it's like their 2006 is a little different than our 2006.
That is true.
yeah.
That's also true.
The Satan Pit is now longer ago than Jurassic Park was when they made the Satan Pit. Just to
Good
put that in
golly.
perspective. Yeah.
Wow.
No, I
Although
defy
Jurassic
you,
Park still looks
stars.
good.
So, well, that's what I mean.
No, well, that's
like,
because it's almost all puppets.
yeah.
Well, yeah, true.
That makes me think of that tweet where somebody said 40 years ago, and it's like a them me, and the second person says, "Oh, so 1960," and the other person says, "No, 40 years ago was 1980," and then the second person goes, "No."
Yep. Somebody reminded me that 1990 was 30 years ago. I'm like, shut your dirty
It
mouth.
is.
You better stop talking to me.
I
That's
listen.
right.
I constantly annoy Erica by doing this very thing by saying, "Do you know that such and such a thing is as old now as like the Crimean War was when they made this thing?" Like it's just, you know. and
I'm
she hates
sure
it.
that's how you process, but
Yeah.
that is rude. Yeah.
It is very rude.
Fun
I played
time.
D&D with a bunch of 20, 28, 29-year-olds, and they are sick to death of hearing how I saw Star Wars in the theater when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, I teach 18 to 20-year-olds, so that happens constantly.
Yes.
Where I say something and they're like, "We've never seen that. What is that?" That happened with The Matrix recently, and I was like, "I'll just crawl
Oh,
back
dear
in
God.
my crypt."
Yeah.
I was at a bar, and a friend of mine, the waitress, I think she's 20, and I pointed at the Jim Carrey Grinch Stole Christmas, and she was like, "That movie's old." I'm like, "You shut up right now. That is enough. Enough out of you. This year 2000
It is
film."
old.
The
one.
nerve, the audacity, the unmitigated gall.
Exactly. To be younger. How
Yeah.
dare they?
See,
How
see,
dare they?
The key is like in my formative years, in my late teens, early 20s, I was like listening to Led Zeppelin and watching like TV that was made before I was born anyway. So everything
true.
feels old to me. So
Oh, yeah.
Key.
I'm not attached to a time. I'm like a time lord. This is like basically,
This is about the only one. I
yeah, this is what's it called? Smeagol like discovering the ring, right down to the lake. An obvious homage. Did we miss the line where the doctor sort of says, "Everyone stay here"? I'm not the Cybermen like will
Losing
kill
anyone else
everyone, and
tonight?
I'm not letting that
I'm
happen
sorry
to
say,
anyone.
I believe we did. Yeah.
Weeps and Bill Potts.
That was-
Yeah, definitely Weeps and Bill Potts.
oh yeah,
Weren't we just looking up? Jody confirmed that was about Bill Potts, that particular line.
it was on
In
the
some interview.
it was the extra that came with it on
Okay,
iTunes
yeah.
or on YouTube perhaps even. Yeah, that was heavy. I got chills. I got goosebumps when I watched that
Yeah, I believe I did too.
last night. Not for the first
I don't know
time.
where y'all are in the episode, but we're at her speech where she just serves it up. She goes, she's mainly talking to Ryan.
Oh,
You're wet.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes it's not a. Yeah.
We know which one.
It's her
You know.
time.
We're not there yet, but we know which
We
one.
should have paused it.
Well, a podcast that edits would have done that, but you know,
I mean,
Whatever.
It's
we
part
could
of
have just
the charm of the live
paused
commentary.
our episode and kept the podcast going, but you know,
yeah.
we're rude and we didn't.
No, we didn't. This is why we sort of generalize things, not necessarily like do reaction commentaries. Like if we had to like just record a commentary and it was a laugh track, like we'd be off, obviously. But thankfully this is not. We're just entering the scene now, and yeah, like it kind of shocked me because it went a little bit like David Tennant in The Waters of Mars. Like,
Yeah.
there's a slight arrogance there, but it feels earned. You know, I felt like perhaps
And not as menacing either.
yeah,
Yes. At the time that this episode aired, I think I said this in the Echelon Circuit episode we did about Villa Diodati. I said this is straying a little close to Time Lord Victorious for me, which I don't prefer, but I agree. I think it's earned here, and I think especially now that we know the broader arc of the season, it really makes sense as a beat.
yeah.
And that line, though, about the team structure not always being flat, it's mountainous with me at the summit in the stratosphere alone. Woo!
Yeah, I know.
Some good stuff.
We were lucky to have this episode to watch at a convention with a bunch of people.
Yeah.
You know, no offense to the other episodes in the season, but I just feel like it was a good shared experience.
Unlike Sleep No More.
At
at
Elihu.
Did you share that with the crowd?
Still wasn't a
Yeah.
bad experience because of the crowd.
It was a good experience because of the crowd.
Well, it was, but then we had to do a live podcast on stage immediately afterwards, and that was a little less fun. But
It was daunting.
Man,
But
Sleep No More.
But then 2 weeks after that, I was at Chicago TARDIS, and it was heaven sent. And let me
Oh,
Okay,
buddy.
That's kind of a gimme.
me
Let's go.
tell you,
Yeah.
that was no offense. I mean, no offense to this episode of Gallifrey 1, but that was just when, like, you know, he says, like, personally, I think that's a hell of a bird. Like, everyone just erupted. And then when the Gallifrey showed up, it was like they had just won the Stanley Cup or the Super Bowl. It was like, oh, you know.
After the eyes was like, yes, the Stanley Cup.
Save the poet, save the universe. That's a line we just got, FYI. Golly, what a scene. What a damn scene.
Right?
It also leads into this. I mean, again, I'm going to go a little hard on Frankenstein, but not a lot. This conversation between Mary Shelley and Ashad, where she's like trying to reach out to his humanity or his like sense of empathy, which is the core of Frankenstein, is that the creature was kind and pathetic, gentle, but mankind makes him terrible. So this is a really interesting inversion where Mary Shelley is trying to appeal to the lone Cyberman's like his goodness, because she says, I see it in you, you spared my son, and he's like, nah, I spared your son because it felt fine at the moment, but nah.
It's such a turn. Like, it's so
good.
Yeah. That's what got me, because I thought, oh, is this how it's going to happen? He's going to turn. Oh, yes, I was wrong. I'm sorry. I got to go see my son, even though I'm a Cyberman. Do. But no, they leaned into it. And then they mentioned, like, slit the throats. I mean, just go along with this graphic
Joined the
thing.
rebellion. I slit their throats. No biggie.
And he has that, like, when she says, were you a father before? He bows his head, but he has that, like, really
grin.
menacing smile.
Oh, God, it's so
Again,
creepy.
congrats to Patrick O'Kane for doing a great job.
Yeah. Like, he doesn't look
Oh, that's
remorseful.
creepy.
Yeah. Like, he doesn't blink. His eye doesn't close when he
That's when
bows
you
his
know.
head. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you know.
Golly. I think this might be my favorite episode of the season. I think.
Oh, yeah.
but
there's no
like,
contest.
Fugitive is up there, and the Spy Falls are
Over
in there.
Fugitive?
Yeah, Fugitive's number one.
It's so
Fugitive
good,
is a
but-
banger. Yeah.
Right? I mean, this is some
The
good
Fugitive
too.
is a bunch of good moments, and this is steady all the way
Oh
through.
no, it was also good. This listen, I like having the ability or the problem of trying to decide which one is even better
Well,
as
yeah.
opposed to
Isn't that a wonderful problem
My
to have?
favorite.
yeah.
There are so many good ones too. Actually, I think Tesla's uneven, but it's still really good.
Romp.
I
Love it.
really enjoyed Spyfall 1.
Love it.
Yeah.
So good.
There were so many good ones this
They
series.
really were.
Yeah.
I ranked it up there with the first two Capaldi series and Series 5. as like.
Yeah.
Very nice. Yep.
Okay. Oh, I like that we're agreeing on things. This makes me happy. Even Rings of Akaton. I mean, I knew I liked to bury you when you said that, but now we're just piling on now with
Rings.
Oh, did we miss the "We are inevitable" line when he pulls a Thanos?
You might have. We didn't. He's just spit out the silver, so to speak.
Ooh, that's an upsetting visual for sure.
Yeah, the Cyberium, a new thing that I'd only heard about. So who sent the Cyberium back into the past in the first place? Do we find that out? I don't
think we know that, right?
Okay.
Not for sure. We just assume the Doctor. Question mark?
I don't know.
I haven't rewatched Ascension and Timeless Children, I don't think, since it happened. We were giving it a breather, so maybe somebody talked about it and was just erased in my brain because of all the things that were happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Alliance sent Cyberium.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Who's the Alliance?
Did they mention something in episode 10? Because we've done next week's commentary already, folks, but we have not done episode 10.
The Alliance was a group to try to stop the Cybermen. Kosh Sharmas.
Oh, yeah. Kosh Sharmas.
Right.
Kosh Sharmas. That's right.
Yeah, the 5 people in a tent.
Yeah. So they probably happened in episode 10 because I don't remember that happened in 9.
Yeah, we haven't gotten to 10 yet for our recordings.
We haven't got to 10. No, and 10 aired like March 1st. And like 10 days later, we were in lockdown more or less.
This happened, yeah.
Yeah, so like it feels a billion miles away right now. Boom. She's just handed the file transfer across. I like how like once the Cyberman gets it, like, okay, I'm out. Boom, gone.
Yeah,
like,
he's just like, bye.
Yeah, it's not like yeah, it's not like he has like a victory speech all lined up, chambered and ready to go.
I mean, we have the Master this season. There can only be one bombastic, speechifying bad guy at any given time, I think. So it's nice that he's efficient about it, and then he's like, bye.
Yeah, Cybermen should be efficient, really.
They should be, but they go talking all the time with the exposition. I mean, I know they have to. Script speaking, yeah.
Why do
them and the
like
Daleks
that?
both, yeah.
But this Cyberman is obviously so extra creepy because you can see the humanness behind the mask. Just constantly, like, right in front of your face. Even though that face...
We just recorded our episode on resolution. So I think that's actually one of the things that the Chibnall era did well, where the Daleks and the Cybermen have been done so many times. Somebody was mentioning this earlier about the Cybermen, that they're usually just not that scary, honestly, because they've been around so much. But the icky, laughing, unhoused Dalek and then this Cyberman, I think are both upsetting in a new way.
Some people say, and I don't agree with them necessarily, that, Cybermen episodes are great until the Cybermen appear, and then they get worse because it's the build-up. It's the build-up to them actually appearing is what's exciting. I think there are some notable exceptions, but still.
You don't think the Cybermouse is scary? What is it actually called? Cybermouse?
Oh, dear.
Yeah, we just got to the bit where I just love his comeback because he's going to say something and then just nope.
And then he just smirks.
Yeah, the
grin. Walk on.
The grin.
Yeah.
I do love that Maxine Alderton gave Claire Claremont agency here and let her blow him off, because unfortunately in real life that did not happen. She had a baby with Lord Byron and it did not end well, which was sad. Poor Claire Claremont.
Maybe they got back together after her standoffish moment to preserve history, alas.
He does not deserve.
He does not deserve.
I know. So has the episode finished for you too, or is it
a little bit? Yeah,
yeah, it did just finish. Tiny bit.
I just adore that. Like, I'd almost forgotten, like, just with everything going on with the woman and the girl, that it was only Graham's thing. Like, I forgot all about it, thinking, oh right, he's the only one who saw them.
I do love his reaction to it too, when he's like, I'm pretty sure I just saw some ghosts.
Yeah.
Question mark? And the doctor's like, there's no such thing as ghosts. And he's like, well, they're gone now. So I'm pretty sure that there were ghosts.
Yeah.
And they made me a sandwich.
No help to him.
Yeah.
When he's like, they're ghosts, she's like, no, there isn't. And then he's
At the
like,
end of the episode.
tell me they're not ghosts. They could be. So unhelpful.
Maybe they were. Who's to
Unless
say?
there are ghosts, yeah, who's to say?
Sit with that now.
You perhaps, since you can see through time and space, isn't that one of your bags? No?
Yeah.
All right.
So being a Philistine and not knowing anything about Byron, the poem that he reads at the end here, is that an actual Byron poem? It is.
It is. It's called Darkness, and it's about the when Mount Tabora first erupted, there was basically like an eclipse because of the ash cloud. And so he wrote this poem called, I think it's just called Darkness. It might be on Darkness, but it's several stanzas long about how that made him think about life in the universe.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Very emo.
He was. I mean,
These guys
the
are the
thing
original
about Byron,
Yeah.
yes, I mean, that's
Yes.
actually true. He could write some bangers in terms of poetry. He was just kind of a womanizing trash bag of a person. But that was like the romantic movement was this backlash against the Industrial Revolution. So it was like, no, we won't embrace science and logic. We're going to feel things. So it really is. They're the original emos.
That's true. Lead singer of Dashboard Confessional, Lord Byron.
Yeah.
That's right.
By way of Dan Harmon.
Yeah.
Trashy, but a really good writer.
Yeah. The camera operator, Mark McCoy was his name. He was at Gallifrey 1 this very weekend that this episode aired, as I watched the fastly scrolling credits here to try and pick out names to talk about, but they go too fast these days, sadly.
The only ones we ever know are who wrote it, who directed it, did Sagoon do anything cool, and often
Yeah.
the DP, because we love talking about lighting.
Yeah. Oh, good. As we talked about here, see, we like to imagine that we know what lighting is too on this podcast.
I mean,
We like
I
to
wouldn't say
imagine.
we know
Oh yeah, we don't know
We're
things.
just like,
we
that's
we
pretty.
regurgitate things we've heard in live commentaries,
Yes.
and then we also say, "Look how pretty that light is over there."
Yeah. Listen. We've been doing this thing for over 14 years, and that's exactly what we do. You're relatively new to the podcast game, but you've got it sussed. Let me tell you that.
Fake your way through and then just keep on faking.
Yep. This has been fabulous. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining us. Where can people find the Queer Archive on the internet? And I say again, we're recording this in late October. You just put out your resolution review, but this is going out in late November, to the eve of Doctor Who Day. So what will you be on then at that point?
We are heading into series 12, so late
Yeah, we are.
November, we might have passed Fugitive of the Jadoon, which is very exciting.
God, really?
I know.
That is. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
Yeah, but you can. We are on Twitter occasionally saying ridiculous things at Queer Archive Pod, and you can find us on your podcatcher of choice under the Queer Archive.
Fabulous. Thanks again. This was a lot of fun, even though we were slightly out of
Yeah.
sync. I think we had some fun
Sorry.
things to say about one of the great episodes of the season, and of course, reminiscing about Gallifrey 1.
Bless. Rip.
Yeah,
Someday.
Thank you so much for having us. We had a great time.
This is
definitely.
great.
Thanks for up.
Yep. All right. Until next time, everyone. I am Stephen in Edmonton.
We're in Vancouver.
Crescent in Edmonton.
And I'm Brenna
And Katelyn.
in Fullerton, which is not located in Canada. So
Yeah,
long.
So long for now.
You've been listening to Radio Free Skaro. Find us online at radiofreeskaro.com, follow us on Twitter and Tumblr at Radio Free Skaro, subscribe to us on iTunes, and donate to the show at patreon.com/Radio Free Skaro. Thank you.